Hey everybody, it's me, John Ward, and welcome back. And today on this video, we are going to be talking about physical media and why it's important. And today, my guest is,
Cliff MacMillan.
yay, Cliff. And I have you on because you are a very old friend,
Yep.
and currently you do work with you work at Arrow.
Arrow Films. Yeah.
Yep.
hmm
But you're also one of the founders of um of Scream Factory. All of a
Scream
sudden I'm blanking
Factory.
on everything.
Yep.
Even though
Yep.
I have a giant stack right here, I'm forgetting things. And um we basically it's interesting of the people that I have come across who know you and that had no idea that we were friends.
hmm
And but we met, if I'm remembering correctly, and I don't know the date, but I know you were a theater manager, I was an usher, and I think we met at the festival in Larkspur
Yeah.
Landing up in Marin County, and I
Yep.
think it was over a bootleg of Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, I had VHS bootleg of that. Yeah. No.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know how it came up. Like I think you were walking out and I was sweeping outside and somehow it was brought up. Like I might have overheard you or you overheard me, and it was like, wait, what? Dawn of the Dead? Because that hadn't been released yet.
No. No.
Yeah, so I think, and then that was, hey, can you get me a copy? And then that's how our friendship began.
So I think was I working? I wasn't working at the festival at that point. I think I had moved on, right?
I think like you were at, yeah, you weren't at the festival because that, you were dropping something off or picking something up. And you might have been maybe at the, I don't think you were at the TAM yet, maybe the Raffel.
Yeah. I don't know. My memory is pretty sketchy these days as I get older, but yeah, I just remember that I know we met at the festival, and then I remember asking you to come to the TAM at some point, the Tamalpais Theater, and we worked there for like about I don't know 4 years or something like that,
Yeah.
and then moved to the Fairfax Theater, and then I left in '88 to move to Sacramento, where I joined um, Tower Records, Tower Records and Video, and I was a clerk there, and then moved up to be. This is a blast from my past. I was the Laserdisc buyer for a period of time back when Laserdiscs were popular, and then I was moved. Yeah, I was moved to the corporate office to do that, and then eventually the person that was doing VHS moved on to video games, and so I bought laser discs and VHS, and then I was there when we were like, I think only I think there were two retailers in 1993, no, in 97 that were the test stores for DVD. And so Tower was one of those test stores. And then I left Tower Video to come to Los Angeles to join a company called Ventura Distribution, which is now gone. I worked there for about 5 years. I ran a label called Ventura Select near the end and put out a lot of Sonny Chiba movies. And then and Ultraman. No, Ultraman came when I left Ventura to go. See, I told you my memory is sketchy. I left Ventura and joined a company called BCI, also gone, and released more Sonny Chiba. I released Ultraman. We were well known for releasing He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which made that company a ridiculous amount of money. BCI was underwater. And in 2008, when the stock market crashed, the owners of BCI said, "Hey, what a perfect time to shut BCI down."
Oh.
So they pulled the plug. I was just in the middle of negotiating the first deal with MGM. MGM had never done a deal with another video company. And I was in the midst of negotiating this. We're going to have all these great titles like Rolling Thunder, and they pulled the plug. So I was out of a job at Christmas 2008, which was very nice of the owners. Of course, that company, the parent company Navar, is now out of business too. So fuck them. And in 2009, I was lucky enough to uh, meet up with somebody that I had almost worked with at BCI, Jordan Fields. He was working at Rhino Video, and he left and went to Shout Factory. So it was perfect timing that they needed a head of production. So I joined them as head of production and acquisition. Did the first film deal. At that point, Chef Factory had only done TV shows. And so did the first video deal, which was The Stepfather, which was I found was available. I knew who owned it. They weren't sure they did. And they said, well, look, if you put up the money to hire a legal person, we will go through all the boxes that we have for that movie. And so we did. We put up the money. They went through the records and found out they, in fact, did own The Stepfather. So that was the first video deal. At that time, Shout Factory was working with MGM now, but again, on the TV side, they were getting things like American Gladiators, which was probably not a good idea to put out on home video, and the Patty Duke show and things like that. So I said to them, hey, we almost did this deal at BCI. Is there a chance that we could move that over to Shout Factory? And we did. And Shout Factory was also working with Universal Studios and for TV shows. So we did the first deal for films, which brought us Halloween 2, Halloween 3, They Live, pretty much the beginnings of the creation of Scream Factory. But I jumped ahead. I had also, when I was at BCI, I was talking to the people at Roger Corman's office. They went and did that big deal at Disney, and then Disney realized this wasn't our cup of tea, Roger's films. And so Roger bought the library back, and then I did a deal with them for a good portion of the library, including some titles that are in your stack there. And so Roger Corman was first. And then again, because we were working with Fox for TV shows, we also did a deal with 20th Century Fox, which brought us Terror Train. So that was around the time when Jeff Nelson, who was working in the marketing department and was working on the Roger Corman titles, and we kind of just said, maybe there's an idea here for another a label here at Shout Factory. And I know Scream Factory was the winner. I think there was Screech or Shriek or something like that as well. So the owners of Shout Factory were like totally down. They said, go ahead. So we created the label, logos, all that kind of stuff. And then it started with, I think I think the Universal titles are first. I think Halloween 2 and Halloween 3. And then we did Terror Train, and that was the beginning, and we just kept doing deals to keep feeding Scream Factory. So there was many MGM deals that I did. We did a couple Fox deals, and then later on, I had a long-standing relationship with George Feltenstein at Warner Brothers, and so we were only the second company that Warner Brothers agreed to license titles out to. They're very particular about their library. So it was Criterion, and then it was Shout Factory. And so we did 3 deals there. And at the end of last year, some things happened, and I decided to leave Scream Factory or Shout Factory. And I was lucky enough to be talking at that time to the people at Arrow Video, because they were doing the Chucky films in the UK. So I just made a joke about, you need an acquisition person, because I knew somebody had left, or 2 people had left. And so they were like, yeah. And so I joined Arrow in November. And did a very big deal for 27 movies that you'll all will see in starting in July, and going all the way through 2025. We literally have our 2025 schedule started. 2024 is going to be very big for Arrow. We've got a lot of great product, and 2025 probably will be even bigger. So long live physical media.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really hope so. And it's to go back a little bit, it's funny because the last time I saw you, I told you how proud I was of you, that I think that out of all of our film friends, that you were the one who succeeded. You didn't go to college. You
Yeah.
worked from being a theater manager to going to Tower. And I remember you doing the signs, those kind of like 3D signs that they had at the time. And I think like Trader Joe's does the same type of thing with their
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah.
And then going, and then from there, going to LA and working for these different companies. And it was just like, wow, he's doing it. He's actually doing it. Because we were film fans,
Right.
and we would hit in the Tamalpais, where you were the manager and I was the like an usher. We got all the full moon movies. We got the Canon films. We
Yeah.
got a lot of these movies that now you are distributing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Quite a
that
few.
it's got to be kind of weird to know that you distributed Ghoulies and we played it at the theater that we worked at.
Yeah.
And I mean, is that a little surreal that a lot of these films that we just were just playing in a movie theater, now your name is on there?
Yeah, like when we did the special edition of Company of Wolves last year, it was like, oh my God, we played this movie at the Tamalpais, and I think we had like 5 people in there,
Yeah.
and some several others. I think probably the weirdest moment for me in my career, well, not really weird, but uh, in answering your question, um, we went, we would fly to LA and go to the Fangoria convention when it used to be run by Fangoria, and would stand in line and get these people's autographs, on our posters or stills or whatever. And then, to have stood in line, to get Clive Barker's autograph or Don Coscarelli, and then to work with them, later on, and, uh, tell them, I stood in line to get your autograph, and now, we're working together, and I did Bubba Hotep with Don, and then I did two different Phantasm box sets for Welgo with him. And now we like go out to lunch and just we're like friends. And so that's the weirdest thing to have, you know, been a fanboy and then to work with them is definitely that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then you were at Comic-Con? You were on one of the panels, right? Or
Yeah, once or twice, I think. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so once again, you before we used to just be the guys who would fly down from Marin County to Fangoria or whatever it might be, and get like the hotel or whatever it is, and then go to the show, go to the conventions, and now you're up there. You're on that panel.
yeah. It is kind of weird. I think throughout my during the time that I was managing theaters, and I went to college a little bit, but just it just wasn't my thing. And I know my father was like, couldn't believe that his son wasn't going to college, and I think he was rather concerned about it. And then fast forward in my career, when I was making more money than my dad ever did. Granted, it was 70s and 80s or whatever, but I mean, he went to college and he was an architect, and he built did plans for hospitals and all this kind of stuff, and he still never made what I was making. And so then he was I think he was a lot more proud of me, and forgot about the whole college thing. But
Yeah, and that's the what you what all of us were doing back then, and I think probably out of our group it was more you and I, because we were the ones that would, well, I mean, look at your background. I mean, we were the collector guys, and so we had to have the VHS, and then we had to have the laser disc, and the DVD, and then the Blu-ray. We got the standees, the
yeah,
shirts, all the toys, you know when the McFarlane toys came out, we had to have the toys, and it's and now you have people giving you these things. You have filmmakers going, "Oh, Cliff, we thought you might like this," and where before we would have to buy that type of stuff at a convention.
yeah. I mean, I remember when we would have a movie that would get out early, or it would, or if like nobody showed up for the 9 o'clock show, we would jump in the car and we would drive either to Berkeley or to San Francisco to go to those Tower record stores that were selling used VHS
Yeah.
and Beta. I had a Beta machine. And I wish I had kept that CED disc player that I gave you. But so yeah, we were collecting, back in the VHS and Beta days too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just how it's flipped, and it's interesting. Even somebody on my small level, with being somebody out here in Vegas in a small film community and working in front and behind the cameras and all that, I really never thought any of that stuff would happen. And I mean, this painting right here is in an anthology that I'm bringing out that the director sent me. And it's just, you don't have to go to a huge university. You don't have to do these type of things, to make it, because a lot of the people I know who went to college are just working jobs,
Yeah.
and even though they went to film school, and it's and I always tell people, you got to look at the back. You got to look at the back of the Blu-ray. It says, Blu-ray produced by Cliff MacMillan. I know that guy. And which kind of brings me to the stuff that we have here, because it's, I guess what I'm kind of getting at with going over all this stuff is, you don't have to go the traditional route. You can through the people that you know and doing a good job, move up. And if you weren't doing a good job at Tower, you wouldn't have gone to LA. If you didn't work really good at one, distribution house, you wouldn't be working at another. So you got to do a good job.
Yeah, no, I was really lucky. I was into films when I was very young, and uh, my architect father actually at one point created out of cardboard a movie theater, and it had a marquee and everything, and I would cut out the ads in the newspaper. This is the 70s, guys. And I would cut out, the French Connection, and I would put it in the poster spot, and I would write out the marquee, and so I've been a nerd since the 70s. But um, and my grandmother, for birthday and Christmas would buy me these film books, and I would just read them from one end to the other, and then working in movie theaters and collecting movie posters and stuff. It was all that knowledge that I took in all those years that helped me to get every job that I've had. Because I remember when I left the theater and moved to Sacramento, my first job was at a Tower record store on Broadway, and I met with the manager, and I guess he had a quiz that he would give people, and I was the only one that had ever passed the entire thing. And he hired me on the spot, and yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, you tend to these people who do these quizzes think, haha, I'm
Yeah, they
gonna
think they're
get.
going to catch you. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
at times, when you know a lot, they're gonna look a fool,
Yeah,
thinking that they're gonna, have one up on you, and you don't. So
yeah,
it's just, you know, there are so many different ways of making it, and depending on what you want to do, and obviously going the route of like writer, director, producer, editor, that type of thing wasn't for you. But this is
yeah.
this was your thing, and you found it. You know,
Yeah, no, I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I just knew that I was not going to have uh, you know, the drive to do it. And, this, I want to say, just sort of fell into my lap because, after leaving the theater, and I remember that Mr. Hansen, who you'll remember,
yeah, from the cinema. Yeah.
I'm not going to say God rest his soul because he was a terrible man, but
Yeah, yeah,
he
was.
he said you need to leave this business or you're going to be an old man like me running a movie theater. And eventually I listened to that piece of wisdom and left. But it really was the luck of being at Tower and being in the corporate office, and the reps for all the studios would come into Tower and try and pitch us their titles, to put in the stores. And I made some of them look really stupid over the years because they'd come in with this movie and go, this is a great movie, it's got great star power, it's going to be great in your stores. And I said, that's a TV movie, that's not a movie. And they're like, oh, damn. Yeah, because they were trying to sell them as movies, and they weren't. And so, yeah, I mean, I was lucky that, one of the people that used to come in and try and pitch me on titles, wanted me to come to LA. So, it's kind of luck in a lot of ways, um, but, it's having the film knowledge that I've had is definitely got me where I am today. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that let's look at some of these titles that got you where you are today. So that's the first.
Because nobody ever, well, maybe somebody now might be going, I want to produce Blu-rays when I grow up. That was not something I was looking to do.
No, but you're damn good at it.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Some of the fans wouldn't agree with you, but yeah.
well,
But that's a whole nother subject. That could be a whole show on its own.
yeah. I think one of the things that we have talked about is remember back in the day when we would look at a laser disc or something and go, "What? They couldn't even do an audio commentary. What? They couldn't even do behind the scenes." Wait a second. I know that this film is longer in Europe. Hold, why
Yeah.
couldn't they? And all of a sudden, now you're the guy who that you were talking
Yeah.
about.
I'm the one getting kicked in the nuts every week when a title comes out. Yeah. That's definitely not the fun part of the job. Everybody uh thinks they can do your job, and I think the internet has made that worse because people can just, say whatever they want. And it wasn't that long ago, but I remember like in 2002 or three, when I was at Ventura, it was like you'd put a title out, a magazine or a newspaper wouldn't review it for like a week or more, and so you'd sell copies. Now they're getting them early and saying don't buy this, and so it's more instant, and it sucks, put it
Yeah,
nicely.
you've definitely told me some stories. So I
Yeah, yeah,
that are pretty amazing. So
yeah.
uh but so the first one I have here is, and this is one of my all-time favorite slasher movies, which is why I'm bringing it up, which is Final Exam.
Yeah, it's funny. I even remember this. I was in France at the Cannes Film Festival, and I don't. I've been working with this guy named Ed Perry, and um, I just said to him one day, I said, there was this label or this company that put out these movies, and Ed had knowledge of or had been in the adult film business at one point. And I said, I think these people that own this movie, I think it was funded by porn. And he's like, we're talking on the phone, from Paris to here. And I said, yeah, they had movies like Final Exam and Savage Streets, and they had Gates of Hell and stuff like that. He goes, let me look into it. And so he called me like about 3 days later and goes, yeah, they told me I can give you the films. So at BCI, I did Savage Streets, I did Final Exam, and then I stopped working with that guy, and the William Olson of Code Red and his brother. Oh my God, how can I be blanking on his name? Oh, son of a bitch. That's embarrassing. It's not good to get old, kids.
No, it
And
isn't. Getting old
his
sucks.
his brother was Scorpion Releasing, and they continued the relationship with Ed Perry. And so when we put Final Exam out at Shout, I licensed it from Bill Olson, Walt Olson, is his brother, from Bill Olson. Oh, I hit something and you went away.
Oh, I'm still here.
No, it was me.
Ah,
So Bill licensed that and Evil Speak to us. And then many years later, the owner of no, I won't even go down that road. And so we did Final Exam and we did Evil Speak. And Final Exam, I think the extras from the previous BCI release are on there. And then I think we did some new stuff. There was a woman, I I will definitely not remember her name, who worked at the Beverly Cinema, New Beverly Cinema, the Quentin Tarantino owns. She was a Uber fan. Her name's probably on there. She was an Uber fan of the movie and knew the guy who played the Screech kind of character, and so she did some extras for that one.
Radish.
Radish, yeah.
Yeah.
Seemed like Screech to me, but
He was kind of like a Screech. He kind of looked like Screech.
yeah.
So it's, yeah, because how do you, for something like this, I mean, this isn't a big movie. How do you find all these people? Because there's audio commentary from the cast members. You got interviews with cast members. There's also a new high definition transfer from the original camera. I mean, how do you find this stuff for a movie like Final Exam that played for like a week?
Yeah, I remember when we did Savage Streets and Final Exam at BCI. I know the film elements were hard to find. We eventually found them. More film labs existed back then. You know, a lot of them are out of business now, which only makes finding materials, ridiculously hard. Um, Anchor Bay used a company called whatever. They used a lab in LA that went out of business, and when that place went under, I think they just chucked everything.
Ah,
So, like when we did, which I know is in your stack there, Silent Night, Deadly Night, it was impossible to find the film elements. And I think the first time we released it, we put it out. We did it off of a print, maybe, and then eventually later we ended up finding more film elements after the fact. Um, no, that wasn't the one on the print. Oh, what was that one? Well, Final Terror was a nightmare because that there was only prints available. We used different reels from different prints to put that one together. But I thought a Silent Night, Deadly Night, we had some issues with finding film. And again, it was an Anchor Bay title. And every time I've looked for film elements that was an Anchor Bay title back in the day, they're gone. And I know that lab just chucked everything. They didn't contact anybody. They didn't, when Anchor Bay was bought by Lionsgate, I don't think they thought to, contact Lionsgate or whatever. So a lot of film from that period is just lost. Yeah.
oh man. Yeah, and if people look at the back here, it says right there. BD producer Cliff McMillan says it right there.
Yeah, I would have never put my name on anything, but when I joined Shout Factory, that was a big thing. All the producers that were putting their names on the back of product, and I thought, well, I guess I got to put my name on there, but I wasn't really excited about doing it because, of course, it brings you into the limelight or to blame, but there are Shout Factory titles I refuse to put my name on, but we'll talk about those another time.
Ah. So now going from something like Final Exam, then you have, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, is Phantom of the Paradise. And this you even did like a nice fancy slip, cover for, and it's you got the double, you got your guys' art, and then inside, I mean, you guys went all out on a lot of the stuff. Then you got the
Yeah,
original poster. I mean,
I don't think we went out and did things as good as they could have been done, and I can say this now that I'm not there. I mean, I think when you look at what Arrow does, I think they blow, most people out of the water because of the amount of care and, lobby cards and posters and all that kind of stuff. I think we could have made titles better than they are, and it's kind of sad that, like Phantom of the Paradise, which I love. It's one of my all-time favorites. I mean, that title's, fucked. It's in the Disney library, and Disney doesn't give a shit about it. Like a lot of the Fox library that they bought, all to just get the rights to, Fantastic Four. So they buy a company and put everybody out of business, and it's just disgusting. And every time I try and contact somebody at Disney, they're just like, no, we're not interested in sub-licensing. So
Oh, jerks.
so that's probably the last you'll see of Phantom of the Paradise, which probably will make the value go up.
Oh, okay. I mean that sucks, but okay at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's a double disc. So you got the Blu-ray on one disc, the DVD on the other. You got a ton of interviews, documentaries, and I mean, with getting in contact with some of these people, I mean, especially, like De Palma, what does one go through to, I mean, Paul Williams? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. That's actually probably the first title that I ever worked in conjunction with Arrow, because Arrow was doing it at the same time. And so some of the stuff, like the sit down with Guillermo del Toro and Paul Williams, that was done by them. So we didn't do that. I worked with De Palma a bunch of times. He's kind of a cranky guy. And like he would never approve a transfer, never wanted to do a 10 to film transfer session, which was kind of weird. But I can't remember. I think there's something on there that we did with Paul Williams. He was super nice. Um, you know,
he's there's new interviews, and Paul Williams is one of them. That's the only thing I'm really seeing as far as him, as his name on here going.
I worked on so many titles. I have to go on IMDb or Blu-ray.com to remember. Yeah, I think yeah, we did do that interview. No, that's the Guillermo del Toro one. So maybe we didn't work with him.
Oh, no, it does say, okay, it's yeah, interview with Paul Williams, and it's moderated by Del
Yeah.
Toro, Del Toro. So yeah, so there's a second thing here.
But we did the commentary with Jessica Harper and uh, Garrett Graham and the Juicy Fruits. So yeah, I mean, that was a fun one to work on because I just, I love that movie.
You used to have a poster of it up in the office at the
Yeah,
Fairfax, maybe at
yeah,
the TAM too, but I think the Fairfax office had more room. So I
yes,
think this is
much
one of the
room.
posters you had up. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I have the original poster. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you remember when we were all at the Fairfax, I drag all you guys to go see the Monkees movie Head at midnight at Berkeley. And I bring that up because I for some reason all of you went, you all paid your own admission to see the Monkees that you guys didn't care about at midnight in Berkeley. And then many years later, all of a sudden you send me a message interviewing Michael Nesmith for Time Rider. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? And you're like, yeah, it just came out of the blue. I'm like, what? What?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. Yeah. I mean, a lot, it's the amount of times that people complain that you haven't interviewed somebody or, it's not like we just decided, you know, we're not going to go after that person. We reach out to people, they're either busy or they're working on a film. And they and quite a few of them just don't want to talk about the movie, like they either had a bad experience on the film or they've talked about it too much. So people go, oh, I can't believe they didn't get that person. Well, we certainly tried. It's not for lack of trying all the time.
Right. Well, and this director you've worked with many times, and so it's Escape from New York.
Yeah, yeah.
So
the
that
other the other grumpy director, yes, John Carpenter.
I was lucky enough, I got to see John Carpenter perform live on Halloween.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he was up there with his son and some of the other guys, and they did the whole kind of greatest hits of John Carpenter. So that was pretty cool. Um,
Well,
but
that was definitely an early Scream Factory title. I think we released it 3 times. I know there's that version, there's a Steelbook, and then we did the 4K release later on.
so how do you figure out with these movies? And then this one has it's like once again your own art, and then the original art is right inside. So you got that dual cover that you could choose from.
Yeah, plus
Um,
on that disc, there's the handcuff image. That was the advance one sheet for Escape from New York. I wish
oh,
we
okay.
I wish we'd been able to use a bigger image of it. It's a really cool poster. I have it.
Oh, it's on the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, and this is also it's also a double disc. So you get the feature film, you get the bonus features. I think this has on it that whole opening scene that was cut.
Yeah. Yeah, we found that and pieced it together. It was in the archive at MGM,
How
which
did
is weird because they don't even own that film. It's owned by Studio Canal. So it was surprising they had that. And yeah, it was pretty cool to have that, put that on the disc.
so when you're trying to figure out what comes out, what do you just kind of wake up one morning and go, "Oh, let me try to get this." How do you figure out that you want some of these movies?
Oh, you mean acquire them?
Yes. Yeah,
I mean,
like how what is your thought process of wanting to acquire and release a particular movie?
well, you know, a lot of it comes just from, knowing film over the years, but at Shout Factory, we had access to a data library that showed sales going all the way back to 2000. So VHS sales and DVD and Blu-ray. And it was sales from all retailers that reported to it. So, you would use that data to make decisions. I think a lot of times people think that, you pick the titles that you want to see out on video. And I think if you're a small label, you can do that. When you work for a bigger company like Shout Factory, you have to pick titles that are going to sell because, in the end, it's a company and it needs to make money to stay in business. So you can't pick dumb titles that aren't going to sell. So, even if you like them. So it's kind of a mixture of, picking titles that are going to sell, and then, picking ones that you love, and um, you hope they sell well. But we would have that data so I could look up to see what Time Rider had sold on VHS and DVD prior. So I had an idea that it would, do some sales, but there's other weird titles, like we put out like a movie from MGM called Demented, which is a sick little slasher film that was out originally on Media Home Video. And, you picked it and you thought, well, it hasn't been out since VHS. Maybe it'll sell, and, it doesn't. And so you have, some hits and you have, some losers as well.
Is it good to have both out as far as since we're talking about physical media and how important it is? Is it good to have
I
those even those bad movies to kind of to preserve them?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, over the years, Jeff Nelson and I looked at the job as film preservationists, because we were releasing titles the major studios would never, release from their library. And now, you have Kino, who's a big proponent of putting out movies that, studio never would have put out, their old classic movies. and there's Vinegar Syndrome, who's putting out titles that, I would have, got fired if I tried to put out, really, very small underground movies along with Roadhouse and Showgirls. But yeah, it's a delicate mix, because you have to be responsible to the company that pays you, and to make sure that you pick titles that will sell. But yeah, I mean, I think, now and for many years to come, you're going to see transfers that we did on streaming channels, and they would have not been able to put them out if there wasn't an HD master, which we did.
What are your thoughts on streaming?
I mean, I like it. There are times when I'm too lazy to get up and put a movie on. So, streaming's great. But I think it's very important to continue physical media, because in a heartbeat, a streaming channel can pull down a title, and you know and the film becomes unseen. There was a long period of many years where Netflix wasn't putting out classic movies on their channel. They were only making and creating new stuff. And I just noticed recently they put up stuff like Death Wish and Chinatown, and even with a classics banner. But you'll see it all the time. You go on Netflix and it says leaving soon. And so, one day you like get up and you want to watch Chinatown, and you know where the fuck to watch it, because it doesn't really have a home.
Right.
So, I think, you never know whether rental stores will come back at one point, just because people get sick of trying to find titles, to watch. It's all mixed up. There was a time when I was at Tower near the end when my boss was like, you know what? I think we should sell sections to the studios. So you walk into a Tower video store, and here's the Paramount section, and here's the Warner Brothers section, and we'll let them put in their own signage. And I just looked at him and I said, that doesn't make any sense at all, because the consumer doesn't know who put out Death Wish. They don't know it's Paramount. And I laughed at him, and he never, went through with it. But we're kind of in that world now, because Paramount has a streaming channel and Warner Brothers has Max. And, but yeah, I don't know. Streaming's good. It's for a different consumer. I think a physical person, although I'm a physical person and I watch streaming, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens the next couple of years, because like Paramount stock just went down because Paramount Plus isn't doing well. So I think some of these studios are going to have to come together and create a channel, because they just can't afford to do it on their own. So
Yeah, I remember working at Blockbuster Video, and we heard about this thing called Netflix, and this guy who was sending movies out from his garage.
yeah.
And we had the big meeting where they're like, this is garbage. It's never going to do anything. Don't worry about it. You're gonna, you guys got your jobs. And we're like, phew, okay. And the next thing you know,
Yeah.
Blockbuster's closing, and now Netflix is number one. So,
Yeah, and now they're out of that business. They don't mail discs anymore. That only happened recently. But I remember, like a month or two ago, when Best Buy said they weren't going to carry physical media, and a lot of people in the business started panicking. And I talked to somebody at a major studio too when it happened, and he said, this isn't going to affect the business at all. He said, this is a major studio. They said Best Buy was 2% of their business, because the stores started, making the section smaller and smaller. So, they were out of the business, a year ago, and they just didn't realize it because they hardly had, much of a section anyways. So it's physical media is just going to be, something that you're just going to have to order online. You're not really going to be able to go to too many stores to find it, and that's fine. And here's the funny thing is, Target pulls all of their movies out. They had a whole wall that was catalog. You know what took its place? LPs. Who would have ever thought that would happen? So I think we're going to see movies come back into stores again. I think it's, Walmart's going to pick up what business that Best Buy had. And, physical media is not going anywhere. It may get smaller, it may get bigger again, but,
I mean, I really hope it doesn't, because that it doesn't disappear, because you have something
it
like
won't.
Disney, and not that I would ever watch this in a billion years, but they just took Willow off the series.
Yeah.
It just disappeared. Like, oh, it's better to just use it as a tax write-off. And they just removed it.
Yeah.
And that's it. So unless you can find that bootleg somewhere, or like a torrent or whatever it is that somebody has out there, you're not going to be able to, if you like that show, I don't know why you would, but you're not going to find it. And then I am really happy. Where is it? I think it's below me. I think I moved it. I think it's right over here. French Connection. I heard that for Criterion, for streaming, they cut certain scenes with a certain word. And so it's like, well, I'm glad I got the physical copy of this, because if now when people watch the French Connection with, Criterion streaming, it's edited.
Yeah, the Criterion didn't edit it, Disney did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Criterion would never edit something. It was either done by Fox before they got bought by Disney, or it was done by Disney. Yeah.
Once again, Disney, the villains. So
Well,
it's,
they are the villains. I'm sorry, but they really are. They really
yeah,
are.
I can't stand them. So, all right, so let's look at the next one here. So this is what I'm interested in because of the title and stuff like that. So it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. So this one also has the it's got the R-rated theatrical cut and the not rated director's cut. And how now, what, like, when you're putting this together, do you kind of debate, like, well, it should say return, or do we just keep it as Next Generation, or
No,
how do you?
we had to title it what Sony would allow us to title it. They wouldn't, that's the title on the Sony, version of it. So, we have to use the same title that Sony used. Yeah. We can't just rename a movie. Yeah.
Even though you do have the unrated one, which says return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I mean, we still had to use the logo that Sony used. That's the thing. The studios have, since they've licensed the movie to us, they have all the, the ability to approve everything. So if we had tried to rename it something, they wouldn't have let us do it.
Okay.
I think originally there was some question about whether we'd be able to add the director's cut. And I think for a long time it was just going to be, the final version. I mean, studios have to be, concerned about whether somebody who made the film or somebody, uh, I think in the case of that movie, I don't think there's any pictures of Matthew McConaughey or on the back, are there? Like, there's no pictures of.
No, because so
Yeah, like
do
we couldn't even use their pictures. Yeah,
so I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there was on Facebook a picture of them, and then it went away, and then it became this because I guess their permission was not given
correct.
to
Yeah.
be put on here, which is sad. because it's from what I understand, they're not like ashamed of the movie or anything. I think McConaughey like likes it. He talks about it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a fun movie. So what?
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of people that get mad that, why did they, not put this person on the cover or that person on the cover? Um, when we did Cobra, I mean, I love you, Sylvester
Love Cobra.
Stallone, but you know, every likeness that we created of him and sent him for approval, he rejected. That's why that's a collector's edition, and it only has the movie poster on the front of it. It's because he wouldn't approve any of the likenesses of his image. So a lot of times the stars have that in their contract that they get to approve their likeness. They also get to approve the stills that are on the back cover. So whenever we're doing a title, we have to use approved stills because a star could possibly see this picture on the back and not be happy with it. So yeah, that's why you see people that come up with like our fire starter cover, was Drew Barrymore from behind because we were going to have to go to her to get approval for her image, even as a child. And it was just easier to move forward not using their likeness. So that's why you don't see people on covers often, is because of that.
Yeah, and like movie posters and stuff, I always use Bad Boys as my example. Is if it says like Martin Lawrence, then Will Smith, but Martin Lawrence is behind Will Smith, and that's all managers and agents where it's like, okay, Martin Lawrence can go first up here, but Will Smith has to go first here.
Yeah, so you go back to the original Jaws poster, and Roy Scheider is first, but I'm looking at it over here. And Robert Shaw didn't want to be second place, so his name is higher than Roy Scheider, and then Richard Dreyfuss is down here. So since the 70s, this has been going on, where people get to approve these kind of things, and it's in their contract. And yeah, I mean, I think at the time Sony just said they'd rather we did not put them on the cover. And that's fine. They own the movie. It's in the end, it's their say.
But yet, aren't they on something? Aren't they on like the VHS or they're on something, right? Because I think I remember like Renee's like she was kind of like yelling over here, and
Oh
McConaughey's
yeah,
like
but that was a
laughing hysterically.
yeah, but that was a still. I mean, we had drawn them, so that then you get into a different thing because they used a still, but it's probably an improved still, and we had drawn them. And so when you draw somebody, then you have to go back to them to get it approved.
So when you have something like this, I mean, there's a lot of special features on this. All this stuff right here are all special features, interviews and direct, behind the scenes, all that type of stuff. Does that ever come into play with somebody who's like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna pass. But look, but we got all these people.
Yeah, I mean, those are the people that said yes. We did reach out to Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, and but like every special feature is approved by a lawyer at the studios. So um, when you are doing extra features, people, um, if they had a bad experience or whatever, um, that's like something a lawyer will have us cut. Or unless it's very well known that the director or the star had a really bad time on the film, and maybe they wrote about it in a book or it was in an interview, then you can use it. But if it's somebody bashing another co-star, like that has to be cut out right away. So um, yeah, all extras are approved by lawyers. So
Oh wow. Okay. So something else that you guys did, and you got me this, so thank you, because you also got me one for Carrie, is an extra slipcase. So you guys, I mean, it's just not just a movie. You're getting add-ons. You're getting extra things for a physical copy of something. This is something that you would never get for streaming. And this is the original one that you guys did.
Yeah.
And so I have to assume that everybody here, or that Kurt Russell gave his okay for this, because he talks about this movie a lot.
Sometimes they don't have likeness rights, and then we don't have to go to the stars, to do it. I don't think we had to go to any of them. No.
Oh, okay. And this and
But
this looks great. I want there's a 4K of this, isn't there?
yeah, Universal did the 4K themselves. Yeah,
This
I
is
mean, I think the Shout Factory website right now, shout out to the people that work there, are really doing some cool things. They're doing like I just finished Darkman before I left there, and they did, additional posters. They did Prism stickers and all these cool things that you can only get on the Shout Factory website. So they're doing a lot of alternate covers or slipcases, and they're doing a cool job on the website.
Yeah, because I love that you guys are doing that, and it's a 2 disc and 2K scan. You're getting interviews, documentaries, radio spots, outtakes. I mean, there is a ton of stuff on this, which you
Yeah.
just wouldn't get with streaming. You may get like a little
Huh.
5 minute behind the scenes, but that's about it.
Not even that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah,
this
and I
is
mean, there's stuff on the thing release that got used by other people and other companies that we found that nobody had. A friend of mine had the original tape that was done for promoting the movie theatrically, and so I got that from him. So yeah, I mean, we for the bigger titles we always went, you know did everything that we could for the release to make it special for the fan.
well, and I remember because I have a Carpenter collection, so it's up on that top shelf there, and I think I had the thing on. Yeah, I had it on DVD, and then I got this, and I'm watching the DVD, and I'm just like, God, this doesn't really look good. And I put this on. I'm like, whoa, this is this is a looks like it was made yesterday, and compared to the DVD.
Yeah, we did that 2K scan. Dean Cundy came in and supervised it, and then Arrow did a 4K scan and one upped us, and that one looks really good. And then that transfer is the one Universal used for their 4K release.
Yeah, it looks great. Sounds really good too, especially with that surround and the music. Just with that simple, just dum, 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 just sounds great. It's so simple but it sounds great just going around.
I think that's the first title that I did where we went back into the archive. Let me just make sure I'm saying the right thing. Yes. So when that movie came out, it had a limited 70 millimeter screenings, like New York, LA, whatever. And that was like early surround sound. So we pulled the audio files from the 70 millimeter transfer, and I created it's listed on there as a 4.1, and that's the original soundtrack for this 70 millimeter screenings. So that was something nobody had really heard before. It was like very early. Well, I mean, there was surround sound all the way back at Star Wars, but multi-channel, not being just a mono, signal out of the surrounds. So yeah, we did it with that, and I also did it with Streets of Fire. Uh, And the Streets of Fire sounds incredible. Um, Not to plug one of my titles, but yeah, get Streets of Fire.
Well, we're plugging all your titles. This whole stack are your titles. So, and I remember that was another poster that you had up in the office with Streets of Fire. We listened to that soundtrack, and I think we even
Yeah.
saw the movie together. Probably a fair amount of these ones, either we saw, yeah, in Berkeley or San Francisco, going down to the sleazy parts down there of having the, of watching, yeah, like the Gates of Hell and Simunoid and all these movies. And to one side of us is a guy, shooting a heroin, and then on the other side is a prostitute giving, head. And but you know what? We want to see these movies, and there's 4 sleazy movies playing all together. So we're gonna watch them, damn it. We don't care.
I remember we went and saw Dolls. I think it was Dolls. And I remember during the movie, I just tilted my head back and I looked up. There was a hole not only in the false ceiling, but in the actual ceiling, and you could see out to the night sky through through the top of the theater. Like they hadn't fixed, damage to the theater. I guess they were just waiting until it rained or something.
We were watching, was it From Beyond, where I got the chicken pox?
Oh, I don't know.
There was a girl who came with, this is at the cinema, and to let people know, it's a big square brick building that like Coppola owns and Lucas owns, and all their movies premiere there. And it's one of the candy girls or concession people, whatever you want to call them these days, came back too soon because she had chickenpox. And I remember it was you and I am pretty sure it was From Beyond, that all of a sudden I just felt like crap. And I think that's when I got chickenpox. And then I ended up being out of work for like a week because of it. Because I think I said to you, like, I really feel crappy. God, do I feel like crap. And I thought it was the movie, like giving me a headache or something. But I'm pretty sure it was I think it was From Beyond. Yeah, which is weird. So now this one I gave you a little preview of, and especially with Exorcist Believer, awful film. So bad.
Well, I had heard it was so bad that when I actually watched it, I didn't think it was that bad, but it was just because I had read so many awful things about it. But I was entertained, but
God,
it's not a good film.
I did a 40-minute rant on it, and of how much I hated that movie, and me just being political, and I know, and not being religious, but knowing a lot about religion and just how they just fucked everything up in that movie. Oh God, did I hate it. David Gordon Green should never make another movie again because of that film. But with that being said, how does one make people want to watch Exorcist 2: The Heretic? What do you go through to say buy this movie?
I mean, think that we picked it, of course, because it's a sequel to Exorcist, and I think it has its lovers. I think those lovers of the film take it tongue in cheek, because it's kind of a crazy movie.
Oh yeah.
And we wanted to do the film right, and so that's a perfect instance of we went with a cover that didn't really have any of the stars because we were going to have to go to Richard Burton's estate, and we'd have to go to Linda Blair, who we've interviewed several times. But there's talk of different cuts of the film, and we did look in the archives to see what we could find. There is 2 versions of the film on there, but yeah, I mean that was the real key to that was to try and find the different versions of the movies and put that on there. And Linda was of course the only person that would talk to us. Mr. Burton was gone. James Earl Jones wasn't going to talk about it. Louise Fletcher was not going to talk about it. um
I
you
like the
know
movie, to be honest. I actually I like it. I just know, yeah, that it has that really bad rap. And when I saw, yeah, that you have the original home video cut, which is 102 minutes, and then the original cut, which is 117 minutes, it was like mine,
yeah.
mine, mine,
Yeah,
mine.
I remember the VA. I remembered the V. It was either myself or Jeff Nelson remembered that there was a home video cut, so we looked for that, and so we got that. And we probably spent more money on it having the two transfers than the thing probably sold, but I think it did okay.
I mean, you also got audio commentary with John Borman.
Yeah,
So,
a holdover from the DVD release, I think, or something. Yeah.
oh, okay. It's
Yeah,
still
we
on
didn't
there.
we didn't get him. He probably would have not wanted to talk to us. So
Come on, dude, you made Zardoz. I mean, come on. I mean, you could talk about Exorcist too. So it's, yeah, you guys brought out a great Blu-ray for Exorcist 3, which is considered by, I watched a whole bunch of Exorcist stuff when Believer came out. Some people were saying Exorcist 3 is better than the original.
I think, that was a fun one to work on because I did deal with William Peter Blatty, who would send me who would shout at me through email by doing everything in all caps. uh when I would contact him. And we we'd worked on Nightbreed before that and had found all the missing footage that was said was lost. And we found it on pallets in cold storage somewhere in the middle of the United States. When we looked for Exorcist 3, unfortunately, that footage, they didn't either find it or it didn't exist. So I recreated William Peter Blatty's cut of the film by using VHS tapes of the dailies. So I sat there and I went through every VHS tape that had dailies, finding the exact section that we needed. I had a script, and so we found all the pieces, and then we edited them all back into the film. And I remember sending it to Peter Blatty, and he was just so happy after all the shouting emails that he had sent me. Was so happy that he could actually view his cut of the movie. And it really isn't a horror film. It's more of a detective, story. But I love Exorcist 3. I mean, to me, it's just as good as the original. But
That's one I think that you and I definitely saw in the theater when it came out. So, and even jumped with the famous scene, with
oh my God, yeah, yeah,
that so many people have done so poorly to recreate in their movies.
yeah.
The newest Black Christmas tried it and failed. But that was a horrible movie to begin with. So, um, yeah, I haven't liked too many movies that have come out recently. So, now this one is the next two are DVD, and I think that, and they're Roger Corman. So this one I think is one of the first ones that I picked up, and it's Death Race 2000. And this, so is this, because this says Shout, so is this one of the first ones?
Yeah, that was before Scream Factory. Yeah, yeah, was started. That was one of the early titles that we put out from the Roger Corman library. And yeah, that was like, I remember a last minute find, the original camera negative for that. So the Blu-ray, which came out probably the same time that did, is from the original camera negative, and it looks great. I see somebody's bootlegging it in the UK, which is just ridiculous, but it happens.
Does that happen with your stuff? Are you finding from other countries that you released something and then all of a sudden they're releasing it too?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of labels that lie in wait for you to do a new transfer of a movie, and then they like pounce on it and try and use it right away. And we had clauses in all of our contracts that would not allow another territory to use our master until a certain period of time because they just wait until you do a master and then they use it, you know. So you spent all the money and they get the benefits of it in another territory. And then we've had people steal our extras and we had to go after them and sue them and all that kind of stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on this one, man, you got a ton of special features on here. I mean, this
Yeah,
is
yeah, we did when we did that movie, we knew we had all these Roger Corman movies coming. So we actually rented 2 suites in a hotel and we just had like this constant group of people coming in and sitting down and talking about a movie. And Roger came in and Joe Dante and Peter Fonda. And we had all these people that were just coming through. So we shot all these interviews at once and then used them later on different discs. So
and what is that like? I mean, especially being a film fan, like all of a sudden there's the who I consider to be the king, Roger Corman. Without him, I don't think we would have cinema. And then you got the Peter Fondas and the Joe. I mean, what is that like to just have this? You know,
I mean, Roger Corman is the most down to earth guy. I mean, he's just such a lovely human being. And, he's just the sweetest guy and he remembers everything. It's just amazing. And, yeah, I remember standing around just talking film with him and Joe Dante for a while. And so that was really cool. But yeah, it's fun to see all these people. I mean, everybody loved Roger, so they would come in and do extras because it was, Roger. And they had, I mean, I'm sure there's a few people out there that would not talk well about Roger, somebody probably thinks they're owed money or something. But for the most part, everybody loved him. So they were happy to come in and do interviews and stuff. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's some of the stuff on here is just absolutely amazing. I mean, it would take probably like an entire day just to watch all these special features. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Yeah.
so it's
I
and it's
mean,
got Stallone. You brought up Stallone earlier, and Stallone's in this.
yeah, we even had it was funny. I was looking through. We had all the paperwork for all the titles. Eventually, we bought a good portion of the library, but or Shot Factory did, not we. I don't work there anymore. But we had the original boxes of all the signed contracts and things, and I found Sylvester Stallone's original contract. It was kind of cool.
And then the next one is, and I even got this autographed. This is one of my favorites, is the Slumber Party Massacre collection. And if you see here, it's signed by Brink Stevens because I worked with her on my own film, Meat Hook Massacre 4. She
Yeah.
came out for like a day or two, and I asked her to sign a couple things for me. So, and this is great. This is something that I've been waiting for a long time. All the Slumber Party Massacre films on one collection, and it's got these awesome documentaries.
Yeah, we had I had reached out to a couple of people. Jason Cullum, I think is his name. Sorry if I say your name wrong. I'm old and I can't remember things. But he was a Uber fan, and so he lined up and found everybody, and we shot it on a Saturday at the Shot Factory office, and the stars and the directors came in and it was going great and it was all great and
Oh.
then there's an actress who I won't say what her name is. When we asked her to sign her document saying that we could use her in the documentary, started a whole kerfuffle. and was going around and telling all the other people that were there not to sign the waiver. And yeah, it really went downhill fast. And she was actually on commentary, and people who are collectors will know this. I think the first release came out with her on them, and then we had to recall it, and then we had to go in and silence her on all the commentaries
Oh, jeez.
because she wouldn't sign her form. So yeah, that was a good and a bad experience.
Wow. Well, that's like Melanie Anderson, from Flash Gordon, Dale, and then with Sam J. Jones, is they refused to do audio commentary for, I think it was the anniversary DVD, because Melanie Anderson said that it was communism because she wasn't getting paid. And
Yeah.
so they released their own, which I did purchase. They signed it and stuff like that. And so eventually they did do one, but it was just like, okay, I don't call this communism because you have a choice to do it or not. You're not, there's no gun at your head. So is that kind of a thing with some people that it's just, I want to do it, but there's these reasons why, and some of them are like insane.
No, they usually just say they don't want to do it. I mean, it's this was very weird because we had never done it, and then had somebody refuse to sign the paperwork after being there all day too. So it was very weird, but you know,
Is what it is.
almost every title has something that goes wrong with it.
Well, and it comes with like this little booklet.
Yeah, and they stopped doing them at Shout because they didn't want to spend the money on them. It's,
But it's cool. I
I
like
know,
it.
I know. Well, you know, everybody
Well,
watches the bottom line, so gotta
oh
save
yeah.
money somewhere.
It just adds to wanting to buy it more.
I
So,
know.
and yeah, and this has
I agree.
yeah, it's got the widescreen transfers, audio commentaries, three-part documentaries. I mean, it's yeah, this is really I love this. Is one of my favorite collections.
That was one of those movies where I think when we did the first transfer on that, which is on that DVD, we had to use an element that just wasn't great, and I think that transfer shows it. And then I would say, like, I don't know, about a year later, we found the original negative. So there's a 4K version of the movie now, and it's from that original negative. So sometimes things, show up eventually, but not, in time for you to use them.
So how do you decide then, like, I know Army of Darkness is one that there's many copies of Army of Darkness, and there's many copies of how do you decide on, well, we've had 5 versions of this one movie come out. Let's do another.
I mean, to do a title again after it's been out many times, I think you need to, be able to put out a version that blows the other one away. And I think our Army of Darkness, when we did the first Blu-ray, um, was great because Universal only owns the theatrical cut. So the longer cut with the different ending was owned by MGM, but we were in business with MGM, so we were able to get the film element from them for that version too. So, if you can make it look better or add more extras, I think people will buy it again. But you can't just put out the same old master and put a few bells and whistles and expect somebody to buy it. It has to really blow the last version away, I think.
Okay. And then also, Scream Factory has done some, also does double features. So, like this one, and I picked this one because we played this, I believe, which I know that we played Dungeon Master.
Yeah, we played Dungeon Master. We didn't play Eliminators at the theater. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we watched on Vestron Video. No, I think this was in like a San Francisco one. When
I can't
like a
remember.
whole bunch of some new Empire stuff came out, and
Yeah.
this might have been one that was there. Um,
Yeah.
this one, I remember the projectionist put the episodes in the wrong order, and it still made sense.
Yeah.
So, and now this one is that it's the alternate. I'm blanking on the title. Rage War.
Yeah. Actually, Arrow, that's out of print now. It's we didn't renew the rights to them, and
Oh,
Arrow picked up Dungeon Master, and I think they put out more versions of it. They really went to town on extras for it.
yeah. I was just happy to get that missing scene, that opening
Yeah.
that's in this. So, because I don't think the yeah, aka Rage War unrated version 77 minutes is the film is called Rage War right on here, but it's on here as Dungeon Master.
I can't remember. That was so long ago.
Yeah, and it's got like a a couple interviews and it's so it's a good disc. So I like that you guys did that because you also brought out the DVDs that had like two movies on them or three movies or four movies, and then you had the Blu-rays that really only had like one or two.
Yeah, because we were Empire fans back in when they actually had limited theatrical release. That yeah, I picked up all of them.
Well,
Then we did more double features and
and this one, oh my God, I was so happy to get this one. So happy. Because this is one of my favorite Alien ripoffs, and I also like the sequel, but I'm just like, why can't I get them as a double feature? And that's The Terror Within and The Terror Within 2.
yeah, when we bought a portion of the Roger Corman library, it made sense for us to preserve the library by, transferring the movies to HD. Most of them, when Roger released them on his own label, New Concord, they were all in standard definition. So I slowly went through the library and, retransferred, God, maybe 100 movies or more. Yeah.
Yeah, and Terror Within 2, I remember Eric Casson was in LA and he was a projectionist at one of the schools, I think it was, and he played this and told me about it. Like the cast and crew were there and people were checking it out, and I'm like, "What's the movie about? What's the movie about?" Because he knows I'm such a huge Terror Within fan. So
Yeah, it's nice when you own a library because you can put stuff out and you don't have to pay royalties. So, that's why we did a lot of those Roger Corman double features and put them out because, we own them.
well, you and I are Roger Corman fans, so we love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
I will buy anything basically with his name. Now, this one is one of the greatest movies ever made when it comes to sports, and has one of the worst remakes ever made when it comes to a remake. And I pulled this because it is 4K, and that's Rollerball. I love Rollerball. It's such a great example of just like ageism and getting somebody out because they're older in sports. And this is the 70s when this is going on.
Yeah, that was a fun one to do. I mean, I love the movie. Yeah, there was an existing scan and there was I guess a 4K release in Germany, and everybody hated the way it looked. And so we got the 4K scan and we did more cleanup on it and we colored it correctly. Nobody looked like they were, yellow and had jaundice or whatever. So, yeah, so it was nice to put out a better version of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is during that time period in the 70s where everything was doom and gloom. Logan's Run and Soylent Green, and it's just it's It really is. You could watch this today, and I bet it still means something within the sports industry about how they treat their players.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
it's, yeah, it is a great movie. This one I grabbed because it is in a steel case.
It just before it's kind of interesting that where we are in the world with rollerball, because Jonathan becomes like this mega superstar, and we just had to sit through this whole football season with this guy dating Taylor Swift, and it became more about them than the sport, and that's exactly what rollerball was, because Jonathan was becoming something bigger than the sport, and we just have to deal with this shit for a whole season of football. It's just awful. Oh,
And
sorry. Next
that's
title.
no, that's why I don't, well, I love movies about sports. I love documentaries about sports. I don't want to watch sports. I don't. A friend of mine said, "Hey, why don't you come over to my house? We're gonna have food and watch the Super Bowl." I'm like, "Well, the food's awesome, but then I have to watch the Super Bowl, so no, thank you. I'll just sit at home and watch sports movies, and that's fine by me." So this is a steel book, and you gave me this one, so thank you. You gave me actually three, and this is my all-time favorite Alien ripoff, and I still think Alien Covenant stole from this movie. I really do. There's that sex scene in the shower where in Alien Covenant, and I really think they took it from this. And I've even told Jim Wynorski that. And
Yeah.
I this is one of my favorite soundtracks. It's got a great poster. I love this film, so I'm really glad
Yeah.
that you did a steelbook on it. And because I think you also did like Humanoids from the Deep, and there was also Galaxy of Terror. I
Yep.
always keep the back. I don't get rid of it. I leave it stuck onto the back. And the best thing about this is it on is it on here? Yes, is you have the original director's cut, which I think in the interview said that the director made a copy of it onto VHS. And that's the only way that it still exists.
No, actually, I don't know if it's that version, because I transferred that movie more than once. But I dealt with the director, and we ended up finding out, I'm pretty sure there was a print of it at UCLA that we transferred. Um,
So
I don't know
maybe
if
I
it's,
didn't get that info from here. I got it from the DVD that came out, and it's the
yeah,
double disc DVD. And I think in that making of, he goes, "Oh yeah, when I heard that Roger wanted to edit the movie to get the comedy out, I went and made a VHS transfer, and that was in because it at least on the DVD it kind of looks like a VHS transfer." And I remember Corman not being happy with Death Race 2000, that he edited all the comedy out of that, made it more serious. And I'm like, oh, but that stuff will probably never be found. So I'm really happy that this has that. However you got it, thank you. But it does have the theatrical cut and that director's cut. So
looking online, I thought we had transferred the print of that, but I don't know. It's so hard for me to remember all these titles. There's just been so many of
oh
them.
yeah. Yeah, and then there's our Mutant, which was originally called Mutant. There's even a poster for Mutant. So yeah, I love this film. I absolutely love it. I listen to the soundtrack all the time. Um, and then there's the last thing I have here, and then I just have the two other things. Is I love this box set, and it's the Rec collection. Do you call it Rec or Record?
I call it Wreck. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and it's got everything. It's got all four movies. This is a great collection.
Yeah, I was lucky that I was able to license it from Sony because they hadn't put them on Blu-ray. I think they're only on DVD, and they didn't port over all the extras from the Spanish releases, which I had. So we brought over all the extras from the Spanish Blu-rays.
Yeah, this is. I love collections. I absolutely. I would rather wait and get a collection instead of just buy them all individually. But
Yeah, I
but
mean, some of my favorite releases that I've done have all been collections. The Halloween collection, the Friday the 13th collection.
those sold well, didn't they? I know a lot of people
I
who have them.
sold very well.
Yeah, I mean that's when you have a collection like that of so many films that take place over so long of a time. Or I mean, are there issues? Because I mean, you had the Carpenter stuff, you got the Rob Zombie stuff in there, you got producers cuts, theatrical cuts.
Yeah, when I did the first Halloween Blu-ray set with Anchor Bay, because they had the rights to the first and the fourth movie at the time, and the fifth. It was a hard box set to do. Nobody had ever done it before because it involved multiple studios. It was, Anchor Bay, Universal, um, Miramax, and the Weinstein Company. So yeah, it was probably the toughest one I've ever done, just because you're playing with so many different parties and having to have all of them approve artwork and extra features and so forth. So, um, and then with Friday the 13th, it was really only two participants. It's Paramount and Warner Brothers. So um, we picked up the Warner Brothers titles, I think, first, and then I went to Paramount for 1 through 8. And at first, they didn't want to license them to us because it's a franchise that sells them a lot of units. But the way I had to sell it to them is, look, I mean, our box set's going to be pushing $200, and your version is $19 on Amazon now. So, they finally agreed, and yeah, I mean, we made them a lot of money. So, you know, in the
No
end,
complaints
that's
there.
what it's all about.
Have you ever added to a box set like with the new trilogy of the Halloween movies, or will those at some point be included in a future box set?
Well, we did 4K releases of all the Halloween films through Resurrection. And that was because we were able to license the original 4 and 5 from Trancas, Malika Cod's company. And then we had 2 and 3 already from Universal. And then we made a deal with Paramount, who controls the Miramax library, to do H2O and Resurrection, and what's the other one I'm forgetting?
H2O Resurrection. Yeah, H2O Resurrection. Those were the last two. Then there's the Rob Zombies. And then
Yeah, we
there's
couldn't get the rights to those. Oh, Curse of Michael Myers. That's the one I was forgetting.
yeah,
So
yeah, Halloween 6, yeah.
yeah, and when we released those, we released them in a 3-pack, and people were like, "You're just doing this so that you make me buy Resurrection."
I like Resurrection, I don't care.
Yeah, and it was like we had to come out up front and say, look, we were trying to do a whole 4K box set, but we at the time we couldn't get the 3 Miramax titles, so we did them all as singles. But then in my contract with Paramount, it said we could only release those 3 movies if they were in a box set. So then we were stuck because 1 through 5 was already out, and now we have 6, 7, and 8. So we had to put them into a box because that's what our contract said. But people were mad that we sold it as a box set. But that's why. I mean, things like that are in contracts, and we have to follow the contract. We can't just do what we want.
So what happens when you release this box set and then something like Echo Bridge or one of these companies then releases three of the Halloween movies on like one disc for $5?
Well, that's an old deal. That was actually at the time we did the Anchor Bay Shot Factory set. I think Echo Bridge had lost the rights to those movies, so that 3-pack was unavailable, and we retransferred all 3 films. Echo Bridge was using very old HD masters, so but I mean, you're always going to have, old versions of titles that are now out of print but still available on Amazon for $5. And you just hope the collector is willing to pay more for extras and a new transfer.
And speaking of a collector, that's a good segue, is I have the Silent Night, Deadly Night of figures and Blu-rays here. I have the posters hanging up on my wall, so I don't want to take those down. And thanks to these movies, basically Scream and Silent Night, Deadly Night, is I made my AXEMAS movies. And so when I saw that you guys were bringing these out, it was just like having a heart attack. So this is the first one, which is also the poster that you put out. And I love that art. I mean, that is really good.
Yeah.
I'll try to get out of the light there. There we go. And it's got its slipcase, and it has a ton of stuff. So theatrical and unrated version. The other versions that say they're unrated, like the DVD and even the VHS and stuff, how unrated were those compared to this one?
I think the unrated version here, because the film elements were lost, we actually had to use the scenes from the Anchor Bay DVD when we put that together. I think it was only later that we found them on film when we did. So yeah. I can't remember this shit as well as I used to remember. God.
Well, and this has while you look, I mean, it's
I
got a
guess
ton of
we
special features too.
I guess we only did one version, huh? I get them mixed up. Yeah, as you can see, it says, new transfer from the original camera negative. The original camera negative was cut to the theatrical version, which is what happens all the time. Like people, think that these movies exist in their longest form and the original camera negative, but no, the original camera negative is cut to whatever goes out theatrically. So that's why we had to use, as it says on the back, standard definition inserts for the unrated version, because they're gone. They're just gone. Again, that goes back to that whole Anchor Bay, going out of business, and the film elements were just trash. So yeah, we had to use less than perfect materials to recreate the unrated version.
Which I would prefer to have if that's it. If you're all of a sudden giving me like a crystal clear film and then some crackly, crappy footage to make it uncut and then back to crystal clear, I'll take it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean
that's how My Bloody Valentine looks. When Paramount released it, when you could add in that extra footage, it was all grainy and stuff, but it
yeah,
was uncut.
yeah, and then when I released it, we found the original camera negative for all of those scenes, so we were able to transfer them, perfectly.
Oh,
And
sweet.
yeah, so it looks gorgeous, especially the 4K version of it.
I mean, for the time that it came out, because I remember that was when My Blade Valentine 3D came out in the theaters. I think I did go like next door, and I think it was Target, and I bought that DVD, and I was as happy as pie. So, I mean, if just with it looking that way, so yeah, I'm very happy with what you guys did then, because now I am as happy as two pies.
Yeah, I mean the Anchor Bay disc had to use VHS footage for the unrated stuff, but we found the original. Well, Paramount found it for us, the original camera negative. So we were able to transfer those things in 4K.
Yeah, and this has the theatrical version of it is 79 minutes, while the unrated one is 85. That's quite a difference.
Yeah, and where I was misspeaking earlier was that it was Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, where the only thing we could find was a print because everything got chucked when it was at Anchor Bay. And so we had somebody spend a ridiculous amount of time cutting in the beautiful HD master we did for the first one when we put those scenes into part two. So part two is a hodgepodge of the theatrical print that we found and the nice HD master that we did for part one.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And this has got a really good documentary on it too, like a feature-length documentary, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, we were Scott Schneid, who I licensed them from. He was a part of the original productions, and I think he's working on a remake. Yeah, he was in touch with everybody, so we were able to get a lot of people to be part of that.
Yeah, and then you guys brought out part two,
Yep.
which for a long time everybody hated, and I now love it. I actually like it better than part one. Eric Freeman is by far one of the greatest things to ever grace film, and he's the very first meme. I do have the original poster signed by him. It's framed up on my bedroom. Um, and this I was really interested in because of the documentary from Harry Lee Harry. There we go, Lee Harry. And who won't give me an interview. I've asked him for an interview, but I bring up this movie, and that's probably why. He probably doesn't want to talk about it anymore. But this has a great documentary on it too, where everything is known now. So there's
Yeah.
really no hate for this. Who do I had to explain this to? I think it was my friend Jonathan, about how this was originally Silent Night, Deadly Night, and they put part two. That the original movie was supposed to be removed and never seen again, and this was supposed to be part one, and then it was like, well, let's make it a sequel. But I guess the trashing of this when it originally came out so much was, let's just get rid of it, like freaking burn it, and then
Well,
we'll
that's
remake.
what that I mean, that's what happened is that TriStar picked up the movie because there was this rush to have slasher movies. And they did the poster, with Santa coming down the chimney.
Great poster.
And there was so much backlash that, yeah, TriStar buried the movie and it didn't get seen until home video because, yeah, TriStar, held it in their vault until the rights expired and it went back to the person that made the film. So
Yeah,
that's how we finally saw number one. Yeah.
yeah, because I remember I think it was all of us who were working at the theater went to San Francisco to one of the sleaze theaters. The
Mhm.
Electric was one, I
Yeah,
think. The
that's the that's
the
the one with the hole in the ceiling, the electric.
the Strand, that was another one. They're coming back to me now.
The Strand is where I first saw Suspiria. It scared the shit out of me too, because they were playing it. They were playing it so fucking loud, and it just scared the shit out of me. Fucked me up.
Those, I mean, as sleazy as those theaters were, man, did they play some great movies.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, from just the Italian zombie movies to Full Moon to, I mean, so good, you know. And then of course we got all the canon stuff. I remember us playing stuff like I think we play like Missing in Action and some of those other ones.
Yeah, but we had to go to Berkeley to see a lot of them because they wouldn't even play in town, like Revenge of the Ninja and The Wonderful Ninja 3, The
Oh, that
Domination.
one we saw. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
well,
still
we
love that movie.
we had to go out of town to see it because it wouldn't play where we live.
Yeah, oh God, love that. I love Ninja 3. And you guys brought that out.
Yeah, twice, I think. Yeah.
There are so many unanswered questions in the first Blu-ray that you had to bring out a second
Yeah.
one. And then these are the figures that you guys brought out. So when you bought the Blu-ray, you got a poster and you got the figure, which I have never opened. I will not
Yeah.
open this.
Yeah, our website worked along with NECA to do these. And I kind of screwed up when we did the one for part two because
Well, let's look at that one. Let's see.
I'll never hear the end of this because, I just thought, we'd save money because we wouldn't really have to redesign the Santa suit. We could put it on Eric. And I totally screwed up because what everybody wanted was a garbage day, version of Eric, not him in a Santa suit. They wanted him in the bad sweater, you know,
Ah!
saying it's garbage day. So that would have been a much better figure. So that was my fault.
But now, do you think, because you do have the hand and the gun, so you could switch it. But
Yeah.
do you think if you had released that version, then people would be like, no, man, we want him in the Santa suit?
Yeah, I mean, you can never win, so sure. But a lot of people remember the film by Garbage Day.
Oh, yeah.
So, that is really the figure we should have created. But oh well.
I I I love this movie. I really do. I mean, I think that Lee Henry did a great job on it. I mean, it's just how he gets the Santa Claus suit as the camera is just going across like the sidewalk, and you just hear him killing the person, and it's perfect. It's ways of showing but not showing at the same time. So
Yeah.
it's now I'd asked you at one point, you guys got to do part three. You got to do part three because we got to get the brain in here. Why no
Yeah.
part three? Why stop with part two?
Because Lionsgate controls 3, 4, and 5, and Lionsgate would not sublicense to us. They have since done a Silent Night, Deadly Night, part 3 through 5
I got
Blu-ray.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's available. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of times, titles just aren't available to us. And we, Shout Factory, we had asked Lionsgate several times to do a deal with us, and they always said no. They saw us as competition, so they didn't want to license movies to their competition. So,
Wow. Okay. Are there you mentioned that there are some movies that you did not want your name on. Are there some movies that you just flat out said no to?
yeah, I had spent a good chunk of my career since like 2001 trying to release the Street Fighter movies. I'm a huge Sonny Chiba fan. I love the Street Fighter movies. And I licensed a bunch of Sonny Chiba movies from Toei. And, you know, the Street Fighter movies fell into the public domain. And so that's why you can find them on every 20-pack movie, because they did fall into the public domain because New Line did not renew their copyright. And I would go to Toei, Japanese company, and say, look, they're out of license to New Line. They didn't renew the copyright, and now everybody's making money off these movies. We should make the money. You, Toei, us, when I was at Ventura and when I was at BCI. And they were very by the book. They said, we have the contract. Contract says that New Line has those movies into perpetuity. So I went to my friend at Warner Brothers and I said, Toei says you have these in perpetuity. They're your movie forever. So Warner Brothers went out and they re-copyrighted the films, so they are no longer in the public domain, although they're still getting bootlegged. And so as a thank you for me doing the legwork to get them to re-copyright it, they gave us the movies. And we put out a 3-pack of the Street Fighter. And I hated the artwork on it so much that I had my name taken off of it. Not that I hated the artwork. Sorry, I have to rephrase that. This had been, more than a decade of me trying to get these movies on to video. And I wanted to have 3 cases in a slipcase, with the original poster artwork from the 70s. And the art department and the marketing department said, no, we're just going to, put 3 discs in a case and shove it into a slip cover, and that's it. And so I said, take my name off it. I don't want to be associated with this release at all, because we just didn't do it the right way.
I believe I have it right there. Do you want me to show it?
I mean, you spend all this time and you do all this work for something.
Yeah, I think it's right there.
And then somebody at the company decides, no, that's not the way we're going to put it out. And it's heartbreaking, especially when you've spent all this time, you love the movie so much, and somebody else at the company decides we want to save $1 or $2 and not put 3, instead of using 3 cases, we only buy 1 case.
So,
and it's sad. That's what happens.
Is this it here?
Yeah, no, I love that artwork. I said the wrong thing. I went after that person to do the artwork because I love his work so much. But the fact that it's just 1 case with 3 discs in it, it pissed me off. Totally pissed me off. So I took my name off it.
I mean, I like the skull here because that's the classic scene of when he goes down and you get the X-ray of the guy's head.
Yeah, but I wanted each film to have its own case with the original US theatrical artwork. And that's what we got. It looks like a budget release. It looks like somebody, looks like an Echo Bridge release.
Ooh, ouch. Now, what about this? I mean, are you happy? Is that okay?
Those are the 3 original posters that should have been in each case. There should have been 3 Blu-ray cases and a nice thick, like rec that you have there. It should be packaged like that.
Okay. I would agree with that. Sure.
Yeah. So there should not be my name on there anywhere. I took it off. They were like, why are you taking your name off? I said, I don't agree with this release.
So there's 3, but what about Sister Street Fighter? Does that not count?
Sister Street Fighter would that deal did expire and New Line did not renew it, so those went back to Toei. So Arrow Video did a nice Sister Street Fighter. I actually did it first at BCI, and but that was DVD, I think, and then they did it on Blu-ray.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you sent me a message when I bought mine. I think VCI copies.
Yeah, you
The
bought the VCI bootleg version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I had no idea. They were like $5, $5 each. They look good. I mean, they the covers and everything look good. I'm like, oh crap, I could get all four for like $20. And next thing I'm hearing ping, and there's clip.
Yeah, they used the image laser disc transfer. It's ridiculous.
Well, I still have those, and I have this one now, so
Oh.
I'm now up to date. So okay, so we're about at that time. So what would you like to tell people about, physical instead of streaming? Like how can we convince people to keep buying movies?
I think there is a whole new generation of people that are really, and you see it on YouTube and stuff, people that are, discovering these movies for a first time, and they're getting into, packaging and collecting steel books. And I think there's going to be, as long as young people realize that physical media is important. And you also have filmmakers like Christopher Nolan and Guillermo del Toro who have been talking up physical media. So, I hope it has a big renaissance at some point. But until then, people like you and me will continue to support it, and the fans that'll probably be listening to me babble for 2 hours. They're probably people that are physical media people as well.
Yeah, I mean, and just even buying, I mean, things like this. I mean, just I think it's all important. It's because if you guys, this would not exist without you. You put a movie and a poster with it, that made me buy it. I now have all three. But if it's just streaming, this stuff goes away.
Oh, well, yeah, it absolutely is. And you know, you hear a lot these days about people watching things on Tubi, and you just have to sit through commercials. But there's so much bootleg stuff up there, and stuff that whoever licensed it to Tubi, they don't really own the rights to it. And sometimes you'll start watching something and it looks like it's a VHS tape, and it probably is a VHS tape that was given to them. So Tubi, does a disservice, I think, to film. Because they don't use really good masters. So, hopefully, people will discover something by watching it on streaming and realize that there's a better version out there, and, they might pick up the disc. So that's my hopes.
I have two movies on Tubi. AXEMAS 1 and 2 are on Tubi.
Yeah, I know, but there is real stuff on Tubi, from studios, but there's some also questionable.
Well, yeah, I think if you want to watch something like Rec, watch it this way. If you want to watch AXEMAS, okay, watch it on Tubi. I still get paid, but it's and there's still physical copies of that too. But if you're going to watch something that's big, don't watch it on Tubi. But independent horror wise, for people like me, it's great. So there is kind of that contradiction in there.
Yeah, but I would say 95% of what's on Tubi is real and licensed from a reputable company. But there's shit up there that is absolutely not from the real licensor. And if you go on Netflix right now, you can watch Street Fighter, and it looks like a terrible bootleg. And so that wasn't licensed from Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers has the new transfers that I did, that they use for streaming. So, there's still bootleg shit out there. It never goes away. It's just too hard to stop. You have to have a lawyer on 24/7, looking for the show.
Well, I I get so mad at Netflix and I get so mad at Hulu. If you're not going to release physical copies of movies, I'm going to buy a bootleg. It's that
Yeah.
simple. I mean, it's I'll do it with the Texas, with the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'll do it with the new Hellraiser. I already did it with Prey before it did come out. And I have shipped over from like China Six Underground, which was done for Netflix. It's the Michael Bay movie because I have all of his movies but that one. So I paid to have it shipped over. So release physical copies and I'll buy them legitimately. Otherwise,
Yeah.
screw you. I'll get them however I can.
That's a very good point. Yep.
So it was just like to kind of circle all the way back to the beginning with Dawn of the Dead. How could you see Dawn of the Dead at the time? It was on 2 VHS tapes, grainy as hell, and it was a bootleg of a bootleg of a bootleg of a bootleg. It was the
Yeah.
only way of seeing it.
But we loved them because of, we got to watch it at home.
Yeah, yeah. And then I got bootlegs of stuff like Piranha 2, The Spawning, and The Evil Dead, and before these guys were even known.
Yeah.
So it's because that stuff just never came out back then. And then it came out on crappy VHS and was all dark and looked crappy. And then there's people like you who then make them look wonderful.
Yeah, our Piranha 2 looks great.
So yeah, I love that. And James Cameron even still loves Piranha 2. So it's and there's how many versions of Piranha 2 are there? Like actually like film wise, not Blu-ray wise. I think there's like 2 different cuts of Piranha.
There
2?
might be, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's another one that I'm glad you guys did, because then I could put that right next to the other Piranha that Joe Dante made. So
Yeah.
all right, well there we go. I think we are at the end. And
Okay.
Unless Cliff, there's anything else you would like to say, I'll let you go.
No, no.
Okay.
Thanks, people that are watching this. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope you guys did too. And please check out, Scream Factory and now Arrow Films. And Cliff will be bringing out stuff shortly. And I'll show that stuff off and try to make him some money.
Cool.
So, and that was just why you guys should do the same thing. So, all right, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cliff. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys on the next video. Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.